The stranger she saved. Chapter 1, The Night of the Storm. The rain came down in sheets that night, thick, relentless, almost vengeful. It battered the cracked windows of the old apartment building, turning the street outside into a river of shimmering reflections. Lightning sliced through the sky, briefly illuminating the peeling wallpaper in the tiny living room of apartment 3B, where Elena Rivera sat hunched over a pile of bills she could no longer afford to ignore. Her pen had long stopped moving. The ink had run dry, but even if it hadn't, she had nothing new to write. No miracle paycheck, no late payment waiver, no second chance. From the small bedroom, she could hear her children whispering. "Mom's still up," said Liam, her 10-year-old son, in that protective tone that made him sound older than he should. "She's worried again," said Sophia, only 8, her voice trembling slightly. "Maybe we can help." "You already did, Soph," he replied. "You gave her your candy money last week. I can give her more." Elena's eyes watered as she overheard them. She pressed her hand against her chest, forcing back a sob. They were good kids, too good. Deserving of a life better than this one-room struggle between survival and hope. She got up and went to tuck them in, pretending she hadn't heard a thing. "Hey," she whispered, brushing Sophia's hair back. "You two should be asleep. Big day tomorrow." "Is it payday?" Sophia asked hopefully. Elena smiled faintly. "Not yet, sweetheart. But soon. I promise." Outside, thunder rolled again, low and distant this time, like the growl of something ancient. She turned off the light, kissed their foreheads, and quietly stepped outside to take the trash down before bed. The air hit her like a wall, damp, cold, and restless. The storm had grown worse, wind howling between the buildings, sending trash cans tumbling down the street. She gripped her old umbrella, though it was more wire than fabric now, and hurried toward the dumpster. That's when she saw the car. It was parked awkwardly near the curb, engine running, headlights cutting through the rain. The driver's door was open, and a figure slumped halfway out, motionless. Her heart jolted. "Oh my God." She ran over, her shoes splashing through puddles. "Sir? Are you okay?" The man didn't answer. His clothes were expensive, his wristwatch gleamed even in the dim light, but his face was pale, drenched, and streaked with blood. A small cut above his temple told her he must have crashed. The car's front bumper was smashed against a streetlight. Without thinking, Elena dropped her umbrella and crouched beside him. "Hey! Can you hear me?" His lips moved faintly. "Help." She looked around, no one else was outside. The storm had cleared the streets. Her phone was inside, charging. She had two choices, run for help and leave him here, or drag him somewhere safe. She made her decision in a heartbeat. "Come on," she murmured, looping his arm over her shoulder. "I've got you. Just hang on." He was heavy, maybe 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, but adrenaline gave her strength she didn't know she had. Step by step, she pulled him toward her building, muttering prayers under her breath. When they reached the entrance, she nearly slipped on the wet tile but managed to keep her grip. The man groaned softly, his head falling against her shoulder. "Almost there," she whispered. "Stay with me." Up 2 flights of stairs, through a door that creaked in protest, she half-carried, half-dragged him onto her worn-out couch. His silk jacket left dark stains on the faded fabric, but she didn't care. She ran to grab towels and the first aid kit she kept in the bathroom cabinet. As she cleaned the blood from his temple, she noticed how tired his face looked, not just from pain, but from years of something heavier. Regret, maybe. Loss. He blinked, finally focusing on her. "Where am I?" "Safe," she said gently. "You had an accident. You're in my home. I'll call for help soon, just rest for a bit." His eyes flickered toward the children's photos on the shelf. "You helped me." "Anyone would have," she said, shaking her head. He gave a faint smile. "No. Not everyone would." His hand brushed hers weakly. "Thank you, what's your name?" Elena! Elena, he repeated it as though it were something sacred. Then his eyes rolled back, and he passed out. Elena panicked for a moment, checked his pulse, steady, thank God. She covered him with a blanket, sat beside him, and watched the rain pour against the window. For some reason, she didn't call 911 right away. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe instinct. Maybe fate. All she knew was that something about this stranger felt important. As the thunder faded and dawn began to glow faintly on the horizon, she whispered to herself. "Who are you, mister?" The stranger didn't answer. But years later, the world would, in ways Elena could never have imagined. The stranger she saved. Chapter 2, The Morning After. Morning arrived like a sigh of relief. After hours of thunder and rain, the world outside had quieted. The streets shimmered with puddles that caught the early sunlight like bits of glass. Inside apartment 3B, the smell of coffee filled the air, thin, watery coffee, but comforting nonetheless. Elena moved quietly through the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly from exhaustion. She had barely slept, too afraid that the man on her couch might stop breathing in the night. Every creak of the building had made her heart leap. Now, as she poured a mug of coffee, she glanced at him again. He was still asleep, his face relaxed, the color slowly returning to his cheeks. Clean-shaven, even under the bruises, he looked to be in his late 30s. Maybe early 40s. His clothes were damp but fine quality, a tailored jacket, Italian shoes, a silver watch that could have paid her rent for 3 months. Who crashes a car like that in this part of town? She wondered. And why didn't anyone come looking for him? She was still thinking when Liam padded into the room, his hair sticking up in every direction. "Mom," he whispered, rubbing his eyes, "who's that man?" "Someone who needed help," she said softly. "He had an accident last night." "Is he dangerous?" "I don't think so. He was hurt. That's all." Liam studied the stranger carefully, his eyes sharp for a 10-year-old. "He doesn't look like the people who live around here," he said matter-of-factly. Elena smiled faintly. "That's because he doesn't. But he's still human, and humans help each other, remember?" He nodded, though not entirely convinced. A moment later, Sophia came out of the bedroom, dragging her blanket like a cape. "Is he a superhero?" she asked, voice still sleepy. Liam scoffed. "He's not wearing a cape." "Superheroes don't always wear capes," she said, tilting her head. "Maybe he just lost his." Elena laughed, the sound felt foreign, but welcome. "Maybe you're right, Sophie." She placed their breakfast on the table, 2 slices of toast each, slightly burnt, with a thin smear of peanut butter. She'd learned to stretch every meal as far as possible. As they ate, she kept glancing back at the man on the couch. His breathing was steady now. Maybe, she thought, she could walk to the corner store later to buy antiseptic cream. Then he stirred. It was just a faint movement at first, a twitch of the fingers, a small groan. Then his eyes opened, unfocused and blinking against the morning light. Elena set down her cup and rushed over. "Hey! Easy there. You're safe," she said, kneeling beside him. He blinked a few times, taking in his surroundings, the faded wallpaper, the couch, the modest little room filled with sunlight and warmth. "I remember crashing," he murmured. His voice was deep, rough around the edges. "The storm." "You did," she confirmed gently. "You hit a streetlight on West Avenue. You must have lost control." He frowned, touching the bandage she'd taped above his temple. "You patched me up." "I tried. I'm no doctor." He looked at her for a long moment, like he was searching for something in her face. "You helped me, without even knowing who I am. Would it have mattered?" That made him smile faintly, a small, tired, grateful smile. Not many people would say that. Liam and Sophia had stopped eating. They sat at the table watching curiously. "Those are your kids?" the man asked softly. "Yes. Liam and Sophia." Sophia gave him a little wave. Hi, Mr. Not Superhero. He blinked, then chuckled. Not superhero? She thought you were one, Elena explained, trying not to laugh herself. Don't mind her imagination. I think I'll take that as a compliment, he said, smiling at Sophia. Hi, sweetheart. Then he tried to sit up, and winced. Easy, Elena warned, pressing a hand to his shoulder. You might have hit your ribs. He nodded, grimacing. Feels like it. I should call a doctor. Or maybe the police, to report the crash. He froze slightly, just for a second, but she noticed. No, please. No police. Not yet. Her brow furrowed. Why? He hesitated. His jaw tightened as if weighing how much to tell her. Let's just say. I was going through a bad night, he said finally. I needed to drive. Clear my head. I shouldn't have. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. Elena studied him. She'd met all kinds of people, customers at the diner, faces that came and went, and she'd learned to sense when someone was dangerous. He wasn't. He was just lost. All right, she said finally. No police. But you need to rest. You hit your head, and it's still bleeding a little. Thank you, he said quietly. You don't even know my name, and you're doing all this. Then tell me, she said simply. He hesitated again, then smiled. Michael. Michael Grant. Elena Rivera, she replied, extending her hand. He took it, his grip was firm but careful, like he didn't want to hurt her. Thank you, Miss Rivera, he said sincerely. You might have saved my life. Elena shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe I just gave fate a nudge. He looked at her as though committing her words to memory. Sophia tugged at Elena's sleeve. Can we keep him? She whispered loudly. Liam rolled his eyes. He's not a puppy. But Michael laughed, a genuine, warm laugh that filled the little room. I'll try not to be too much trouble, he said. Elena shook her head, smiling despite herself. She didn't know who this man really was, or why he'd flinched at the mention of the police, but something deep inside her whispered that their paths weren't crossing by accident. That night, when the children were asleep and the stranger rested again on the couch, Elena sat by the window watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Her life had always been simple, predictable, filled with small struggles and smaller victories. But as the wind carried the faint hum of passing cars and the smell of wet earth, she felt something new stir in her chest. A sense that everything was about to change. Chapter 3, Unlikely Company. For 3 days, the stranger stayed. Elena hadn't planned for that. She thought he would rest a few hours, maybe until morning, then call someone, a friend, a relative, whoever people like him called when their luxury cars crashed in the wrong part of town. But the phone call never came. Instead, he slept most of the first day, waking only for water and the soup she made from what little she had in her pantry. Each time he opened his eyes, he looked almost disoriented. Like he wasn't used to being in a place so small, so quiet, so ordinary. By the second morning, color had returned to his face, and he could sit up on his own. That's when Elena noticed it, how his posture was too refined, his speech too careful. Even bruised and bandaged, Michael Grant carried the air of someone who used to have command over a room. Still, in her little apartment, he was humble, grateful, and strangely gentle with her kids. Sophia adored him first. She followed him around like a curious kitten, bombarding him with questions. Do you have kids? Why were you out driving in the storm? Do you like peanut butter toast or strawberry jam? He answered each one patiently, smiling as if he hadn't been asked the same question twice. No kids, he told her once, but if I did, I'd hope they'd be as brave as you. Sophia beamed at that. Liam, on the other hand, kept his distance. He watched Michael from the corner of the room while pretending to fix his old basketball, one that was so deflated it barely bounced. Michael noticed. he asked one afternoon. Liam shrugged. A little. Can I see? The boy hesitated, then dribbled once. The ball made a sad, squishy sound. Michael bit back a smile. That thing's seen better days. It still works, Liam muttered. The man nodded. You've got good hands, though. You play guard? Liam blinked in surprise. You know basketball? Michael chuckled. A bit. Used to play pickup games in college. Not well, mind you, but I loved it. That was all it took. For the first time, Liam's eyes softened. Maybe you can show me some moves when your ribs are better, the boy said. Deal, Michael replied. That evening, Elena came home from her second job at the diner, exhaustion etched across her face. Michael was setting the table, nothing fancy, just reheated pasta and a salad. You didn't have to do that, she said, surprised. I know, he said simply. But I wanted to. She paused, watching him stir the pasta like someone who hadn't cooked for himself in a long time. You're feeling better. Much. I owe you more than I can say. She smiled faintly. Just rest. That's all I ask. But later, as they sat down to eat, Michael's gaze lingered on her longer than before. Her hands were rough from work, her eyes tired, yet there was a calm strength in her, something unshakable. He'd met executives, investors, politicians, but he couldn't recall anyone who carried that kind of quiet grace. How long have you been on your own? He asked softly. Elena hesitated. She wasn't used to people asking. Almost 7 years, she said finally. Since my husband passed. I'm sorry, he said gently. She nodded. Life goes on. Her tone was neither bitter nor sad, just factual. Like someone who'd long made peace with pain. Later that night, when the kids were asleep, Michael stood at the window, watching the city below. He hadn't told her much about himself, not yet. But in the reflection of that cracked window, he barely recognized the man staring back. A man who'd once owned penthouses, businesses, influence, and yet had somehow lost it all in the span of a few bad decisions. Elena didn't know, but when he crashed that night, he wasn't just running from a storm. He'd been running from the wreckage of his own life. And somehow, fate had guided him straight into the home of the one person who still believed in kindness. The next morning, when Elena woke, she found an envelope by the coffee pot. Inside was $200 in cash, and a note. For groceries. Please don't refuse, call it rent for the couch. Michael. Her first instinct was to put it back. But then she saw the children's shoes by the door, worn thin with the soles, and the almost empty pantry. She sighed and tucked the money into a jar above the fridge. Just this once, she whispered. Just this once. That evening, Michael told her he'd be leaving soon, and he'd been closed long enough. Sophia looked heartbroken. Liam pretended not to care, though his silence spoke louder than words. Before he left, he crouched beside the boy. Keep playing, he said quietly. You've got something, Liam. Don't stop. Then, to Elena, thank you, for reminding me what decency looks like. And then he was gone. Weeks passed. Life returned to normal, or what passed for normal. Elena went back to her routine, the kids went back to school. But sometimes, when she passed the street where the car had crashed, she couldn't help wondering. Who was he, really? And why did she feel as though their story wasn't finished yet? In a skyscraper downtown, Michael Brandt sat in a boardroom overlooking the city. He reclaimed his position, Chairman and CEO, Brandt Global Holdings. A dozen executives waited for his decision on a new investment proposal, but his mind was elsewhere, on a tiny apartment, 2 bright children, and a woman who had given him shelter when he had nothing. He turned to his assistant. Find me information about a woman named Elena Rivera, he said quietly. Rivera, sir? Yes. And her children. I owe them more than they'll ever know. And thus, the seeds of destiny began to bloom. Chapter 4, Ripples of Kindness. In this chapter, we'll stay mostly in Elena's point of view, showing how life begins to shift in small, almost miraculous ways, little ripples caused by the kindness she once gave freely, without expecting anything in return. The stranger she saved. Chapter 4, Ripples of Kindness. Life, Elena often thought, never changed in big, dramatic moments. It changed quietly, one bill paid, one favor granted, one small mercy at a time. It had been nearly a month since the night of the storm. The city had moved on, as it always did, but the memory lingered with her. Sometimes, when she came home late and saw the empty couch where Michael had slept, she half expected to find him there again, sitting up, smiling faintly, asking how her day had gone. But he was gone. And she told herself it was for the best. She didn't have room in her life for mysteries, or men who belonged to worlds far above her own. Still, sometimes, she caught herself wondering what became of him. A week of surprises. The first ripple came on a Tuesday morning. Elena had been at the diner since dawn, refilling coffee for half-awake commuters and college kids studying for finals. Her boss, a heavy-set man named Frank, rarely smiled at anyone, especially her. But that morning, he called her into the back room. Rivera, he grunted, glancing at a paper on his clipboard, "You've been with us what, 3 years now?" "Almost 4, she said cautiously. He nodded. "Well, corporate's been reviewing wages. You're getting a raise. Effective next week." Elena blinked. "A raise? Me? Don't look so shocked. Guess the higher-ups finally noticed you're not half bad." She thanked him and left the room in a daze. A raise, not much, but enough to cover groceries without dipping into her savings jar. She didn't know how it happened, and she didn't dare question it. Later that week, the landlord who'd been threatening to raise her rent suddenly called to apologize. "City grant came through," he said. "You qualify for rent assistance." Lucky timing, lucky. That word again. By Friday, Liam's basketball coach pulled her aside after practice. "Your boy's good," Coach Daniels said, smiling. "Got him a spot in a youth tournament. No fees, it's sponsored." Sponsored, she stammered. "By who?" "Some new donor for the league. Real generous guy. Don't know the name." Elena smiled politely, but her heart pounded. That night, after the kids went to bed, she sat by the kitchen window, watching the city lights blink like faraway stars. She was no fool. She knew coincidences when she saw them, and when she didn't. "Michael," she whispered to the night. "Is this you?" The wind rattled the glass, as if answering yes. The letter. 2 weeks later, another surprise came, this one inside an envelope slipped under her door. Her name was written in neat handwriting across the front, Elena Rivera. Inside, a letter. No return address. Just words that made her chest tighten with disbelief. "Ms. Rivera, please accept this as a small token of gratitude for the kindness you showed me when I needed it most. There are people who remind us that the world is still good. You and your children are those people for me. Enclosed is a grant opportunity through a foundation that supports working single parents. I believe you'd be an excellent candidate. I've already recommended your name. A grateful friend." She unfolded the second page and found a printed flyer for something called the Horizon Foundation for Families. Her hands trembled. A foundation grant? For tuition, childcare, and housing assistance. It felt unreal. She reread the letter twice, the words blurring as tears filled her eyes. Then she laughed softly, covering her mouth with keys and making her face. "Unbelievable," she whispered. "You really didn't forget. The beginning of hope." The following months brought more changes, not sudden wealth or miracles, but opportunities. Real ones. The Horizon Foundation approved her application. She could finally afford evening classes in bookkeeping, something she'd always wanted but never had time or money for. Liam began traveling with his team, catching the eye of a scout who said the boy had raw potential. Sophia got a small role in a local commercial, Her first taste of being in front of a camera. And through it all, Elena kept working, smiling, praying, and waiting for the day she could thank her mysterious friend properly. One evening, as she closed her notebook after class, her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize flashed on the screen. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" "Elena Rivera?" a smooth, familiar voice said. Her heart skipped. "Michael?" There was a pause, a soft chuckle on the other end. "You remember?" "How could I forget?" she said quietly. "I'd like to see you. Tomorrow, if you're free." "Tomorrow? I'll send a car. There's something I'd like to discuss." She hesitated, gazing around her small apartment, still cluttered with the signs of her everyday life. "All right," she said finally. "But you don't need to." "I do," he interrupted gently. "You helped me when I had nothing. It's time I returned the favor properly." That night, Elena lay awake long after the lights were out. She wasn't afraid, just curious. Nervous, even. Something told her that tomorrow would change everything. And for the first time in years, Chapter 5, The Reunion. The black sedan pulled up to the curb at exactly 10 a.m. Elena stood on the sidewalk outside her apartment building, hands twisting nervously in front of her. She'd worn her best outfit, a modest navy dress she saved for church and job interviews, and brushed Sophia's curls twice to keep them neat. Liam stood beside her, tall now for his age, clutching his scuffed basketball like it was a lucky charm. The driver stepped out, polished shoes gleaming. "Miss Rivera?" he asked politely. "Yes. Mr. Grant asked me to bring you and your children to his office." "Office?" "Yes, ma'am. Grant Global Tower." The name sent a small shiver through her. She'd seen it before, towering over downtown, a symbol of wealth and success. Grant Global. Of course. How had she never connected the name before? The drive was silent except for Sophia's occasional hum and Liam's whispered, "Mom, are you sure this is okay?" Elena squeezed his hand. "We'll find out soon enough." The city grew brighter, sharper, the higher they went. The elevator doors opened to the 48th floor, a world of glass walls, marble floors, and quiet authority. A young receptionist greeted them warmly. "Miss Rivera? Mr. Grant is expecting you." She led them through a corridor lined with photographs, charity galas, corporate events, global summits. And there, in nearly every one of them, was Michael Grant, impeccably dressed, confident, smiling that same kind, knowing smile Elena remembered from her little apartment. When the receptionist opened the tall double doors, Elena froze. The office was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows spilling sunlight across sleek furniture and a breathtaking view of the skyline. At the center, by the window, stood Michael. He turned when they entered. Gone was the bruised, weary stranger from that rainy night. In his place stood a man of composure and quiet power, tailored suit, clean lines, silver cufflinks glinting in the light. Yet, when he saw them, his expression softened instantly. "Elena," he said, stepping forward. "You came." She blinked, unable to find her voice. You're... He smiled gently. "Yes. I'm the CEO of Grant Global Holdings." Her knees almost buckled. "My God. I didn't mean to deceive you," he said quickly. "When you found me that night, I wasn't myself. I just lost something important, not money, but purpose. You reminded me who I was." Elena stared at him, speechless. The kids exchanged wide-eyed glances. Sophia, never one to stay quiet for long, broke the silence. "You are a superhero," she declared proudly. Michael laughed. "Maybe just a man who got lucky." Then he grew serious. "I asked you here because I owe you a debt I can never repay. But I'd like to try." He walked to his desk, opened a folder, and handed Elena a set of documents. "These are offers for full scholarships, for Liam and Sophia. They'll cover private schooling, extracurriculars, and college funds." Elena's hands trembled. Michael. I can't accept this. Yes, you can, he said gently. You gave me a roof when I had nowhere to go. Let me give your children the future they deserve. Tears welled in her eyes. You've already done so much. This isn't charity, he said firmly. This is gratitude. He turned to Liam. You love basketball, don't you? Liam nodded shyly. I've arranged for you to join a private youth academy, best coaches in the city. They'll train you properly. Really? The boy breathed. Really? But you'll have to promise me one thing. What? Work hard. No shortcuts. No excuses. Liam grinned. Deal. Then Michael looked at Sophia. And you, young lady, I hear you've been acting. Sophia's eyes sparkled. I was in a cereal commercial. He laughed. Well, I happen to know someone at a talent agency. We'd like to meet you next week. Elena covered her mouth, tears spilling freely now. Michael, she whispered, this is too much. No, he said softly. It's not nearly enough. He hesitated for a moment, then handed her another envelope. This, he said, is for you. Inside was a contract, employment with the Horizon Foundation, with a generous salary and benefits. You'll oversee community outreach programs for single parents, he explained. It's a real position, not a favor. You're the kind of person who can change lives, Elena. You've already changed mine. Her breath caught in her throat. You mean, a full-time job? Yes. And there's housing too, a quiet place outside the city, by the hills. A villa. I'd like you and the kids to move there. She shook her head, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. He smiled, his eyes calm. Simply let me help. For a long moment, she didn't speak. The hum of the city far below filled the silence. Finally, she nodded. Okay. I'll let you. Michael exhaled, relief flooding his face. Good. Then let's begin. As they left the office, Liam whispered, Mom, is this real? Elena smiled through her tears. I think so, honey. Sophia skipped ahead, humming her cereal commercial jingle, while Elena glanced back one last time. Through the glass doors, Michael stood watching them go, his reflection blending with the skyline, a man whose life had been saved not by doctors or luck, but by kindness. And in that moment, Elena finally understood what the storm had brought her that night. Not trouble. Not danger. But destiny. Chapter 6, New Horizons. The taxi wound through the hillside roads, past rows of whispering pines and sunlight-dappled stone walls. Elena leaned forward in her seat, her hands clasped tightly around the strap of her worn handbag. She'd been quiet most of the ride, eyes flicking between the view and the folder in her lap, the Horizon Foundation employment agreement. Her name, printed neatly on the front, still looked out of place among the elegant lettering and embossed seal. Beside her, Sophia pressed her face to the window. Mom, look! There's a lake. I see it, sweetheart. It's so shiny. Like a mirror. Liam rolled his eyes but smiled anyway. It's just water, soft. Yeah, but it's fancy water, she said, wrinkling her nose. Elena couldn't help but laugh softly. The taxi turned one last corner, and there it was, their new home. A soft gasp escaped her lips. The villa wasn't enormous or showy, but it was beautiful, cream-colored walls, arched windows, a terracotta roof that glowed under the morning sun. The garden stretched out in neat rows of wildflowers and citrus trees, their scent already drifting through the open car window. She'd seen pictures, of course, but they hadn't prepared her for this. For the sound of the breeze rustling through the trees. For the way sunlight pooled across the porch like melted gold. Mom, Liam whispered. We live here. Elena smiled, tears gathering in her eyes. Yes, baby. We do. The driver helped unload their few suitcases, the same ones Elena had patched and repatched over the years. When the car pulled away, the quiet that followed felt unreal. Sophia ran ahead, her laughter echoing off the stone path. "It's huge," she shouted. "There's stairs, and a fireplace, and, Mom, there's a whole room just for books." Elena followed slowly, her shoes clicking softly on the marble floor. Every step felt like walking into someone else's life. The living room was airy and sunlit, with soft furniture in cream and beige. The kitchen gleamed, smelling faintly of lemon polish. And on the table by the door, a vase of white lilies, with a handwritten note beside it. "Welcome home. MG." Elena touched the paper gently, her heart swelling. For years, home had been wherever she could keep her children safe, even if it was a single room with peeling paint. Now, for the first time in a long while, it felt like home meant peace. That afternoon, they explored every corner. Liam found the basketball hoop tucked behind the garden shed, brand new, with a ball that still smelled of fresh rubber. He grinned like it was Christmas. Sophia discovered the attic, a cozy space filled with sunlight and dust motes, perfect for playing dress-up or daydreaming. Elena unpacked slowly, savoring the small luxuries: clean linens, fresh towels, a fridge already stocked. Someone, clearly Michael's people, had thought of everything. When she finally stepped onto the back patio, she stopped in awe. The view stretched for miles: hills, trees, a sliver of lake shimmering in the distance. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message. "Michael Grant, I hope the place feels like home. Don't worry about anything for the next few weeks. Focus on settling in, and on the kids. Your first day at the foundation is Monday." She smiled, typing back. "Elena, it's more than home. Thank you, from all of us." A few seconds later, his reply came. "Michael Grant, you earned this, Elena. I'm just helping you see it." That evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Elena stood on the patio with a cup of tea in her hands. The golden light washed over everything: the villa, the trees, her children playing in the yard. She felt something she hadn't in years: stillness. No bills on the counter waiting to break her spirit. No late-night shifts leaving her too tired to breathe. Just peace. Liam dribbled his new basketball, shouting, "Watch this, Mom," before sinking a shot clean through the hoop. Sophia clapped and cheered, spinning in her sundress, her laughter filling the air. And Elena, she laughed, too. Loud, unrestrained, the sound rolling over the hills like music. Later that night, after tucking them in, she walked out to the balcony and looked up at the stars. "Thank you," she whispered. She didn't know if she was thanking Michael, or fate, or the storm that had brought him into her life, maybe all three. Because somewhere, deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. For her. For Liam. For Sophia. And even, perhaps, for Michael Grant, the stranger she once saved, who had somehow saved them in return. Chapter 7, A New Beginning. The first morning of her new job felt like a dream Elena didn't quite trust. She woke early, not to the shrill of an alarm or the dread of another long day at the diner, but to the soft rustle of curtains and the smell of coffee. The villa seemed to breathe quietly around her, the morning sun slipping through the windows like liquid gold. For a long moment, she simply sat on the edge of her bed, hands resting on her lap, listening to the laughter of her children echo down the hall. "Mom!" Sophia called. Liam made pancakes. Half-burnt ones. Liam added from the kitchen. Elena laughed. "Save me one before you eat them all." She dressed carefully, a light blouse, a soft gray skirt, and the sensible heels she hadn't worn in years. She still felt out of place in anything other than a waitress uniform, but when she looked in the mirror, she saw someone else looking back, confident, calm, ready. The Horizon Foundation building stood in the heart of the city, a sleek glass structure surrounded by gardens and quiet fountains. When she walked through the doors that morning, she felt her pulse quicken. A woman with warm brown eyes and a clipboard greeted her. "Mrs. Rivera? Welcome. I'm Dana, the program director. We're so happy to have you." Dana led her through the open offices, explaining as they went. We handle community grants, housing support, and outreach for single parents. We'll be managing some of the family assistance cases, reviewing applications, coordinating with schools and local agencies. Elena nodded, absorbing every word. I know this might be overwhelming, Dana said kindly. But you were personally recommended by Mr. Grant. He spoke very highly of you. Elena smiled faintly. I'm still getting used to all this. You'll be fine, Dana assured her. Sometimes, the people who've lived through struggle are the best ones to help others out of it. By lunchtime, Elena already felt a sense of belonging. Her desk overlooked the city park. Her co-workers were kind, grounded, purposeful. For the first time in years, she wasn't running on fear, she was running on hope. That afternoon, she reviewed her first case, a single father struggling to find work while caring for his autistic son. As she read the file, she felt a familiar ache, the exhaustion of trying to hold everything together alone. Without hesitation, she picked up the phone. Mr. Nolan? This is Elena Rivera from the Horizon Foundation. I wanted to talk about how we can help. For the next 30 minutes, she listened, really listened. When she hung up, she typed a detailed note recommending housing support and educational resources for his son. Dana paused by her desk. That was fast. You're good at this. Elena smiled softly. I've been on the other end of those calls before. I know how it feels when someone finally listens. That evening, as she left the building, she spotted Michael's car parked at the curb. He stepped out when he saw her, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, a casual warmth in his eyes that made her heart stutter. How was your first day? He asked. Overwhelming, she admitted. But in a good way. He smiled. That's how all new beginnings feel. They walked together down the quiet street, the setting sun casting long shadows behind them. I met a man today, she said. Single father. Struggling. Reminded me of, well, me. Michael nodded thoughtfully. And you helped him. I tried. That's all it takes sometimes, he said. One person willing to try. They reached her car, and for a moment neither spoke. The air between them felt different now, not just gratitude or kindness, but something gentler, unspoken, almost magnetic. Thank you again, she said quietly. He looked at her, his expression softening. Elena, you don't owe me thanks. You're just doing what you were always meant to do. When she got home that night, Liam was shooting hoops in the fading light, his movements sharper, faster than before. Coach says I've got potential, he said proudly. Real potential. I believe it, she said, ruffling his hair. Inside, Sophia twirled in the living room, humming as she practiced her modeling poses. Mom, guess what? The agency lady said I'm a natural. Elena laughed, her chest swelling with quiet pride. Later, after they'd gone to bed, she stood again on the balcony, the city lights twinkling in the distance. She thought of Michael, of the foundation, of the people she'd helped. Her life had turned in a way she could never have predicted, not because of luck, but because kindness had come full circle. And as she gazed up at the stars, she whispered softly. Maybe this isn't just a new beginning. Maybe this is what we were always meant to reach. Chapter 8, The Court of Dreams. The gym smelled of varnished wood, sweat, and adrenaline. Whistles echoed. Sneakers squeaked. The sound of basketballs pounding the court was like thunder. Liam stood just inside the door, clutching his new duffel bag, heart hammering in his chest. Around him, the other boys laughed and stretched, tossing passes back and forth with the casual ease of kids who had grown up in polished gyms, not cracked driveways. He felt out of place, his shoes were new but cheap, his shorts slightly too big. Still, he straightened his back. You belong here, he told himself. You earned this. All right, team. Coach Wallace barked, his voice booming across the court. Let's see what you've got. Pair up for drills. The boys scrambled into groups. Liam found himself with a tall kid named Bryce, whose father, he'd overheard, played college ball. Bryce gave him a once-over and smirked. You knew? Yeah, Liam said quietly. Better keep up, newbie. Liam just nodded. Words wouldn't prove anything, only work would. The first few drills were brutal. Sprints. Passes. Layups. Then shooting form, over and over. Sweat poured down Liam's face, his arms burning. By the third hour, Bryce was showing off, sinking threes from the line, grinning each time. Liam, meanwhile, missed 2 in a row. Then 3. He clenched his jaw, frustration rising. That's when he heard his mother's voice in his head, work hard. No shortcuts. No excuses. He took a deep breath. Block out the noise. Focus. The next time the ball touched his hands, he imagined the cracked asphalt of their old street, the rain pouring down, his mother watching from the window as he practiced in the dark. He bent his knees. Released. Swish. Then another. And another. Soon, the gym grew quieter. Even Bryce stopped laughing. Coach Wallace's whistle cut the air. You got form, kid. What's your name? Liam Rivera, sir. Well, Rivera, looks like you've got heart. Liam tried not to grin too wide, but his chest swelled with pride. After practice, as the others packed up, Bryce walked by and muttered, not bad for a rookie. Liam smiled. Thanks. It wasn't quite friendship, not yet, but it was respect. And that was enough for now. As he walked out of the gym, he spotted a familiar figure leaning against the railing outside. Michael Grant, in a simple jacket and jeans, hands in his pockets, watching the sunset over the city skyline. You came? Liam asked, surprised. Michael smiled. Wouldn't miss it. How'd it go? I did okay. I saw more than okay. Liam looked down, kicking at a pebble. I want to make my mom proud. Michael rested a hand on his shoulder. You already do. But if you want my advice? Liam looked up. Don't play for pride, Michael said softly. Play for love. For the game. For the joy that got you here. Liam nodded slowly. I'll remember that. That night, he got home exhausted but glowing. Sophia teased him, NBA boy. Before hugging him tight. Elena listened as he told her everything, the drills, the shots, the coach, even Bryce. She smiled, brushing sweat-damp hair from his forehead. I'm so proud of you. It's just the beginning, Mom, he said. I'm gonna make it. I can feel it. And for the first time, she didn't doubt it. Later, long after the house was quiet, Michael's text arrived. Michael Grant, he's special, Elena. Don't let him forget it. She smiled, typing back. Elena, I won't. Thank you for believing in him. Michael Grant, I believe in all of you. Elena sat there for a moment, staring at the message, warmth spreading through her chest. Maybe it wasn't just her son's dream that was beginning to bloom. Maybe life itself was finally starting to give back what she had given all along, love, faith, and quiet strength. Chapter 9, The Spotlight Beckons. Sophia Rivera had always been a little ball of light. Even before her family's life changed, she was the kind of girl who could make a room brighter just by walking in, full of energy, curiosity, and the kind of confidence only children who've known love can carry. So when she stepped into Aurora Talent Agency for the first time, wearing her best dress and her mother's softest curls, she wasn't nervous. Just excited. Mom, do I smile or act serious? She whispered as they entered the glass building. Elena knelt, smoothing her daughter's hair. Just be yourself, sweetheart. That's all anyone needs to see. Inside, the lobby buzzed with life, other kids with polished portfolios and perfectly practiced smiles, parents with nerves hidden behind forced calm. Sophia clutched her little folder of photos that Michael's assistant had helped arrange, simple shots taken in the villa garden. The receptionist smiled kindly. You must be Sofia Rivera. Right this way, dear. The audition room was large, with bright lights and a backdrop of soft pink and white. A panel of 3 casting agents sat at a table, watching as Sofia stepped forward. Hi, she chirped. One of the women smiled. You're not shy, are you? No, ma'am. My mom says being shy is just forgetting how special you are for a minute. The panel chuckled, already charmed. All right, Sofia, said the man in the middle. We'd like you to pretend you're in a commercial for a new chocolate brand. You just took your first bite, how do you feel? Sofia thought for a moment. Then she closed her eyes, took an imaginary bite, and let her face light up with pure joy. It tastes like happiness, she exclaimed. The room broke into laughter. That's perfect, one of the women said. Perfect. Then came a short script for a children's clothing ad. Sofia read it flawlessly, her voice full of energy and sparkle. When it was over, the panel whispered among themselves, smiling. Thank you, Sofia, the man said finally. We'll be in touch. Sofia curtsied, beaming. I hope so. I like being in touch. Outside, Elena hugged her tight. You were amazing. Sofia grinned. They laughed. That's good, right? That's very good. As they walked toward the car, Michael was waiting by the curb. He had a knack for appearing just when they needed him most. Well, he asked. I made them laugh. Sofia said proudly. Then I'd say that's a win. He crouched to her level. You've got something special, Sofia. Not just talent, heart. Never lose that, okay? She nodded solemnly. I won't, Mr. Michael. Elena watched the exchange with a soft smile. You didn't have to come. He shrugged lightly. I wanted to see her shine. 2 days later, the call came. Elena was in the kitchen when her phone rang. Mrs. Rivera? This is Jenna from Aurora Talent. We'd love to sign Sofia. She's perfect for an upcoming children's campaign, if you're interested. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Of course we are. When she hung up, she ran into the living room. Sofia. You got it. I did. Yes, sweetheart, your first real job. Sofia squealed, spinning in circles. Liam ran in from the yard, confused. What happened? Your sister's gonna be on TV. Elena laughed, tears of joy in her eyes. Liam grinned. Whoa. Guess we've got a celebrity now. Sofia crossed her arms dramatically. Excuse me, I've always been fabulous. The 3 of them burst into laughter. That night, Michael stopped by with flowers, daisies, Sofia's favorite. To the newest star in the Rivera family, he said, bowing playfully. Sofia took the bouquet and whispered, You're my lucky charm, Mr. Michael. Elena met his gaze across the room, their smiles lingering just a little longer than before. There was a quiet understanding between them now, one born of gratitude, respect, and something growing warmer with every passing day. As the night deepened, Elena watched her children asleep, Sofia clutching her flowers, Liam's basketball beside his bed. Her heart was full. Not of fear. Not of longing. But of peace. And as she turned off the light, she realized something she hadn't dared believe before. Their story was no longer about survival. It was about becoming. Chapter 10, Hearts Unfold. The Horizon Foundation's charity gala shimmered like a dream. The ballroom glowed under crystal chandeliers, the air filled with soft jazz and the murmur of conversation. Waiters glided between guests carrying trays of champagne, laughter mingling with the clink of glass. Elena had never been to an event like this. She stood by the entrance, her hand brushing the fabric of the midnight blue dress Dana had helped her choose, elegant but simple, the kind of beauty that didn't shout. When Michael spotted her from across the room, he paused mid-conversation. For a man used to commanding rooms, he suddenly looked utterly disarmed. He crossed the floor slowly, smiling. "You clean up well, Miss Rivera." She laughed softly. "I'm still trying to remember which fork to use." "Just follow my lead," he said. "Or ignore all the rules." "That's what I do." Throughout the evening, Elena watched him interact with people, polished, charming, but never pretentious. When he introduced her to board members, he did so with pride in his voice. "This is Elena Rivera, one of the Foundation's newest team members. She's already making waves." Her cheeks flushed. "You're exaggerating." "Not at all," he said quietly, eyes lingering. "You remind me why I started all this." Later, after the speeches and toasts, they slipped out onto the balcony for some air. The city stretched below like a sea of lights. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "It is," he agreed. "But I think it's better from here, away from the noise." They stood in silence for a while, the cool air brushing against them. Elena finally said, "You've built so much, Michael. The company, the Foundation. But that night, when I met you, you seemed lost." He exhaled, looking out at the skyline. "I was." She glanced at him, surprised by his honesty. "My father passed away a few days before that night," he said quietly. "We weren't on good terms. He built this empire, and I inherited it, but I didn't know how to carry it without him. I'd driven out to the coast that night just to clear my head. Then the storm hit. The car spun out. And suddenly..." He turned to her, eyes soft. "You opened your door." Elena's throat tightened. "You make it sound like I did something extraordinary." "You did," he said simply. "You didn't know who I was. You didn't ask for anything. You just helped. No one had done that for me in a long time." The emotion in his voice caught her off guard. She looked down, her fingers tracing the edge of her glass. "I just did what anyone would do." He smiled faintly. "That's where you're wrong. Not everyone would." A long pause hung between them, filled only by the distant hum of the city. "You changed my life," he said finally. Elena shook her head. "You changed ours." "Maybe it's both," he murmured. Their eyes met, steady, searching, wordless. For a brief, dizzying moment, the world around them seemed to fall away. Then Michael cleared his throat softly. "Would you dance with me?" She hesitated, then nodded. He offered his hand. She took it. Back inside, the music slowed, a gentle, lilting tune. Michael guided her with surprising grace, his hand at her back, her fingers lightly resting on his shoulder. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. By the time the song ended, Elena's heart was racing, not from nerves, but from the quiet certainty that something had shifted between them. Something real. When he dropped her home that night, the kids were already asleep. The villa was wrapped in silence, the moonlight spilling across the porch. "Thank you for tonight," she said, turning toward him. "Thank you for coming." He hesitated, then said softly, "Elena. I don't want you to ever feel like you owe me anything." "I don't," she said. "But I do feel grateful." "So do I," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. For a heartbeat, it felt as though the space between them might disappear, the air charged with something unspoken. But instead, he smiled gently and said, "Good night, Elena." "Good night, Michael." As he walked back to his car, she stood on the porch watching him go, heart full, hands trembling slightly. Somewhere deep inside, she knew this wasn't just kindness anymore. This was something that might last a lifetime. Chapter 11, A Day of Sunlight. The day began with laughter. Sophia burst into her mother's room just after sunrise, her curls bouncing wildly. "Mom!" "Mr. Michael said we're going on an adventure." Elena blinked awake. "What?" Liam appeared in the doorway, grinning. "He called. Said he's picking us up in an hour. Said it's a surprise." Elena rubbed her eyes, half amused, half nervous. "Oh, did he now?" By mid-morning, a sleek black SUV rolled up the villa's driveway. Michael stepped out, dressed casually in jeans and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked younger, lighter, a man who'd traded boardrooms for sunlight, if only for a day. "Good morning, Riveris," he greeted, smiling. "I hope you're ready." "Ready for what?" Elena asked. "For fun." He winked at the kids, and before she could protest, they were piling into the car, Sophia chattering non-stop while Liam tried to guess the destination. The drive led them past the city, through winding roads lined with golden fields and wildflowers. When they finally stopped, Elena gasped. It was a lakeside park, calm, open, beautiful. Picnic tables under shady trees. The water sparkled in the sunlight, dotted with small boats drifting lazily. "Michael," she said softly. "It's perfect." "I thought you all could use a day away from everything," he said, setting a picnic basket on the grass. "No meetings, no practices, no auditions, just peace." Sophia ran straight toward the water. Liam followed, basketball in hand. Elena stayed back, watching them with a quiet smile. "You really didn't have to do this," she said. He shrugged. "Maybe not. But I wanted to." They spent the morning laughing, eating, and playing. Liam and Michael tossed the ball back and forth, the man's competitive streak showing as he tried to keep up. "Nice shot." Michael called as Liam sank one into the makeshift hoop they'd rigged between two trees. "Guess I learned from the best," Liam said with a grin. Michael smiled, though his gaze flicked toward Elena, a silent acknowledgement of who the real teacher had always been. Meanwhile, Sophia built sandcastles near the shore, occasionally calling out for everyone to admire her masterpieces. Michael joined her, helping shape the turrets while Elena watched, her laughter carried on the breeze. There was something surreal about seeing him like this, sleeves rolled, shoes off, laughing with her children like he'd known them all their lives. Later, after lunch, Elena found herself sitting on a blanket by the lake, her toes brushing the grass. Michael joined her quietly, 2 cups of lemonade in hand. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For this," she gestured, "the sunlight, the laughter, the rare calm. I forgot what it felt like to just breathe." He looked at her for a long moment. "You've spent so long taking care of everyone else. You deserve to exhale once in a while." She smiled softly. "And what about you, Michael? When do you exhale?" He chuckled quietly. "I'm working on it." They sat in silence for a while, watching the lake shimmer. Then she said gently, "You know, they adore you." He followed her gaze to where Liam and Sophia were racing along the shore. "They make it easy." Elena turned back to him. "You've given them hope." He met her eyes. "They gave it to me first." The words hung between them, tender, unguarded, real. For a moment, the air seemed to hum with something unspoken. Then Sophia's voice cut through the stillness. "Mom! Mr. Michael! Come see our sand castle." They both laughed, the spell breaking, but not gone. As the day faded, they drove home with windows down, the golden light spilling over the hills. Sophia fell asleep against her brother's shoulder, her curls brushing his chin. Michael glanced in the rearview mirror, then at Elena beside him. "You know," he said softly, "this might have been the best day I've had in years." Elena smiled, tired but glowing. "Me too." For a long moment, they drove in comfortable silence, 2 people who had once been strangers, now bound by something far greater than circumstance. When they reached the villa, Michael helped carry the picnic things inside. He lingered by the doorway, hesitant to leave. "Thank you again," Elena said, her voice warm. He looked at her, really looked, and said softly, "I should be the one thanking you." There it was again, that quiet, magnetic pause. He smiled, stepped back, and said, "Good night, Elena." "Good night, Michael." As his car disappeared down the long driveway, Elena leaned against the doorframe, the stars just beginning to appear. Her heart was light. Her world was full. And for the first time in forever, the future felt like sunlight, endless, open, and waiting. Chapter 12, The First Shot. The gym smelled like new sneakers and nerves. Bleachers creaked with parents, coaches, and scouts from local colleges. The sound of basketballs echoing off polished floors filled the air, sharp, rhythmic, alive. Liam stood at the center of it all, his jersey clinging to his back, his heartbeat thundering in his chest. He was 16 now, taller, leaner, his boyish grin replaced by focus and fire. The regional championship game had drawn more attention than anyone expected. Word had spread about the kid with the impossible jump shot and quiet discipline, the one who never missed practice and played like every game was his last. That kid was Liam Rivera. From the stands, Elena clutched her daughter's hand. "I can't watch," she murmured, though her eyes didn't move from the court. Sophia giggled. "You say that every time, Mom." Michael sat beside them, calm as ever, or at least pretending to be. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes tracking Liam's every move. "He's ready," he said quietly. Elena smiled nervously. "You sound more confident than I feel." "That's because I've seen him work," Michael said. "He's got something special, that same fire you do." Elena looked at him, surprised. "Me?" He nodded. "It runs in the family." The whistle blew. The game began. From the start, it was clear Liam wasn't just good, he was different. Where others rushed, he flowed. His movements were sharp but graceful, reading the court like a chessboard. Each pass, each pivot, each leap seemed like part of something larger, a rhythm only he could hear. By halftime, his team was down by 5. Sweat glistened on his forehead as he walked to the bench, breathing hard. His coach slapped him on the shoulder. "We'll get kid. Stay loose." Liam nodded, but inside, doubt gnawed. He caught sight of his mother in the stands. She smiled, giving him a thumbs up. Beside her, Michael's gaze was steady, proud, unwavering. That look alone seemed to steady Liam's pulse. When the third quarter began, everything changed. The other team doubled up on him, cutting off passes, forcing turnovers. The crowd grew louder, tense. Then, with 30 seconds left, the score was tied. Timeout. The coach barked orders, drawing lines on his clipboard. "Rivera, you're the decoy. They'll expect you to take the shot. Pass to Jenkins on the wing." Liam nodded, but his gut twisted. He'd spent years dreaming of this moment, the shot that mattered. The one that could prove everything. As they broke from the huddle, he caught Michael's eyes again across the gym. Michael didn't say a word, but the message was clear in his look. "Trust yourself." The buzzer sounded. 10 seconds left. The ball found his hands. One defender. Then another. He faked left, spun right, broke free, just enough space for a breath. 5 seconds. He rose, the world slowing around him. The ball left his fingertips, spinning, perfect, a clean arc through the noise. The crowd held its breath. Then, swish. The gym exploded. Elena leapt to her feet, tears in her eyes. Sophia screamed so loud she startled the people behind her. Michael stood too, clapping once, slow, deliberate, pride shining in his eyes. On the court, Liam's teammates mobbed him, lifting him off the ground. The scoreboard blinked, 72-70. Victory. For a moment, everything blurred, lights, voices, confetti from nowhere. But through it all, Liam looked up at the stands, searching. He found them. His mother. His sister. And Michael, smiling like a man who'd just seen destiny unfold. Liam smiled back, his heart pounding. Later that night, after the crowd had gone and the gym was nearly empty, Michael waited by the exit. Liam jogged over, still buzzing with adrenaline. "Hey," he grinned. "Did you see that shot?" Michael laughed. "I think the whole city saw it." He clapped a hand on Liam's shoulder. "You've got something special, kid." Don't ever let fear talk louder than your instincts. Liam nodded, eyes shining. You think I could really make it? Michael's voice softened. I don't think it. I know it. Elena appeared then, wiping at her eyes. My baby. Mom, Liam groaned, embarrassed but smiling. Michael stepped back, watching them hug, mother and son, victory and tears. He didn't say it out loud, but in his heart, he knew this was only the beginning. That night, back at the villa, Liam placed his worn-out basketball on his nightstand, the same one he'd carried since childhood. Outside, the moonlight fell across the court where he'd practiced countless times. And somewhere deep inside, he whispered to himself, "This is for you, Mom." Chapter 13, Lines We Cross. The office was quiet that night. Most of the staff had gone home, leaving only the soft hum of the city through the glass walls and the steady rhythm of rain against the windows. Michael sat behind his desk, staring at the glowing skyline. He'd stayed late before, countless times, in fact, but tonight, work wasn't what kept him there. It was her. Elena Rivera. Her laugh still echoed in his mind, light and unguarded. The way she'd looked at him during Liam's game, pride in her eyes, warmth in her smile, it had stayed with him longer than he wanted to admit. He rubbed his temples, exhaling slowly. Don't do this, Michael, he muttered to himself. Don't blur the lines. But the truth was, the lines had already begun to blur. His phone buzzed. A message from Elena. Just wanted to say thank you again for coming to Liam's game. It meant the world to him. To all of us. He stared at the message for a long time before replying. He's an incredible kid. You should be proud. A pause. Then another text appeared. I am. But I'm also proud of the man who believed in him when no one else did. Michael leaned back, his heart thudding in a way he hadn't felt in years. He didn't reply, not right away. Some things didn't need words. He turned off the phone and sat there in silence, trying to will his heart to steady. But deep down, he already knew, this wasn't just gratitude. This was something real. The next morning, Elena arrived at the Foundation's office to drop off reports. The building's lobby buzzed with activity, volunteers, donors, the usual whirl of energy. Michael was waiting near the elevator, coffee in hand. Morning, he said, smiling. Morning, she replied, a bit surprised to see him there. They walked toward his office together. The air between them was charged, but not uncomfortable. Familiar, but fragile. How's Liam? He asked. Still floating, she laughed. I think he watched that game highlight 100 times last night. He deserves to, Michael said. That was his moment. She smiled softly. He says it wouldn't have happened without you. Michael shook his head. It happened because you raised him right. The compliment caught her off guard. She looked at him, really looked, and for a brief, unguarded second, he saw it in her eyes, something tender, uncertain, and dangerous all at once. Later that afternoon, they met in the conference room to discuss a new community program, one designed to help single parents find stable employment. Elena spoke passionately, her words flowing with conviction. People just need a chance, she said. Sometimes it's not about ability, it's about being seen. Michael listened, but not just to her ideas. He listened to her voice, the fire in it, the kindness beneath every sentence. When she finished, he smiled. You know, that's exactly why I wanted you here. She tilted her head. Why? Because you remind me what all this is supposed to mean. For a moment, the room fell silent. The air seemed to thicken, charged with words neither dared to say. Then the door opened, Dana poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, the donors from Zurich are online too, Michael. He cleared his throat. Thanks, Dana. I'll take it in a minute. When she left, Elena gathered her notes, cheeks faintly flushed. I should get going, she said quietly. He nodded. Of course. As she reached the door, he said softly, Elena. She turned. "Thank you," he said, "for more than just the meeting." She smiled, that small, knowing smile, and left. That night, Michael stood by his window again, the rain gone, the stars clear. He knew what he was feeling. He also knew what it could cost. If anyone ever questioned his motives, if they said he'd helped the Riveras because of personal attachment, the foundation, his reputation, his legacy, all of it could crumble. But the more he tried to fight it, the more impossible it became. This wasn't charity. This wasn't obligation. It was love, quiet, unexpected, undeniable love. He whispered to the empty room, "How did you do this to me, Elena?" Meanwhile, at the villa, Elena stood by the balcony, phone in hand, rereading his text from earlier. Something had shifted, she could feel it, even if she didn't dare name it. Her heart told her to let it happen. Her mind told her to protect what they'd built. But deep down, beneath fear and reason, a quiet hope was blooming. And she couldn't help but wonder. If fate had brought him into her life once before, maybe it wasn't done with them yet. Chapter 14, The Shape of Hope. It was Sunday morning, the kind of morning Elena used to dream about back when life was a blur of double shifts and unpaid bills. The villa was quiet except for the soft sound of pancakes sizzling on the stove. Sunlight poured through the windows, golden and kind. Sophia sat at the counter, scrolling on her phone, while Liam dribbled a basketball softly in the courtyard, always moving, always dreaming. For once, everything felt still. Elena flipped a pancake and smiled to herself. This was peace, something she'd almost forgotten existed. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke the calm. She peeked through the kitchen window, Michael's familiar SUV gliding to a stop. Sophia perked up immediately. "It's Mr. Michael." Liam poked his head in from outside. "He said he had something to show us today." Elena's heart gave a small, involuntary flutter. Did he now? Moments later, Michael stepped into the kitchen carrying a small envelope. He looked impossibly relaxed in a simple gray sweater, his usual business edge replaced with something softer. "Good morning, Riveras," he said with a grin. "I hope I'm not interrupting breakfast." "Only if you're not hungry," Elena teased. "There's plenty." He smiled. "I never say no to pancakes." They ate together around the kitchen table, the way families do when life feels simple. Sophia told stories, Liam argued playfully about basketball stats, and Michael laughed, a real, unguarded laugh that made Elena's chest tighten. After breakfast, he slid the envelope across the table. "I have something for you, Elena." She frowned, curious. "What is it?" "Something I think you deserve." Inside were printed photos and blueprints, sketches of a community center. "It's the start of something we talked about," he said softly. "A place for single parents, job training, childcare, support programs. I'd like you to run it." Elena's breath caught. "Michael, this is..." He raised a hand gently. "You've spent your whole life helping others. You should have a platform to do it your way." Tears stung her eyes before she could stop them. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he said simply. Later that afternoon, while the kids helped clean up, Elena stood on the porch watching the horizon, the same view she'd looked at on nights she used to wonder if life would ever turn around. Michael joined her quietly, hands in his pockets. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "More than okay. I just never thought I'd get here." He smiled faintly. "You earned it." They stood there for a long moment, just the sound of wind through the trees. "You know," she said softly, "when I first met you that night, I thought you were just a lost soul who needed a little kindness." "And now?" he asked, his voice low. She turned toward him, her eyes warm. "Now I think maybe you were sent to remind me not to stop believing in good people." He smiled, but there was something fragile in his eyes, the weight of feeling too much, too deeply. "Elena," he began, then stopped himself. She waited, her heart skipping. But instead, he just said, "Thank you. For everything." That evening, after he left, Elena sat on her balcony watching the sunset melt into gold and lavender. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Hi. My name is Clara James from Meridian Talent Agency. We saw your daughter Sophia's photos from the Horizon charity event. She's beautiful. Would you be open to discussing a modeling opportunity for her? Elena read it twice, barely believing it. She called Sophia into the room. Sweetheart, you might want to see this. Sophia's eyes went wide. Wait, what? That's the Meridian. The one from New York? Elena nodded, smiling through her astonishment. It looks like someone noticed you. Sophia squealed, jumping up and down. Liam came running, confused. What's happening? Your sister, Elena said with a laugh, might be a model. The villa filled with laughter and disbelief, the kind of joy that feels too big for words. But later, when the house grew quiet and everyone had gone to bed, Elena sat by the window again, heart full and heavy all at once. She thought of Michael, of his kindness, his restraint, the way he looked at her like she mattered more than she believed she ever could. She whispered to the night. Chapter 15, The Space Between. The villa felt strangely empty without Sophia's laughter echoing through it. She had left early that morning for her first real modeling shoot, an introductory session arranged by Meridian Talent Agency. Elena had helped her pack, fussing over every detail, trying to hide the knot of worry in her stomach. Now, with Liam at practice and Sophia away, the silence pressed against her. She made tea, opened the curtains, and tried to focus on the pile of foundation reports on her desk. But her thoughts drifted, to Michael, as they often did lately. Every time she thought she'd drawn a clear line between them, life found a way to erase it. Around noon, her phone buzzed. Michael, free for lunch? I'm nearby. She smiled despite herself. Elena, I thought CEOs didn't have time for lunch. Michael, only for certain people. She typed and deleted 3 different replies before finally sending. Where? They met at a small cafe tucked behind a row of olive trees, a quiet place Elena had always loved but rarely visited. Michael was already there, seated on the terrace with 2 glasses of iced tea and a view of the sunlit square. You picked a beautiful day, she said, sitting down. He smiled. I had a feeling you'd say that. For a while, they talked easily, about the foundation, Liam's upcoming tournament, Sophia's big opportunity. She's terrified, Elena admitted. But she's pretending she's not. That means she's brave, Michael said. The good kind of fear is what pushes us forward. Elena nodded. You sound like someone who's been there. He smiled faintly. More times than I can count. Their conversation drifted, light and unguarded. She laughed more than she had in weeks. He watched her like someone memorizing a melody. At one point, she reached for the salt shaker, and their hands brushed. It was nothing, a small, accidental touch, but it lingered. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. The air between them shifted, charged, fragile. Then Elena drew her hand back, looking away. Sorry. Don't be, he said softly. After lunch, they walked through the square together. Street musicians played violins under the shade, children chased pigeons across cobblestones. Michael glanced sideways at her. You ever think about taking time for yourself? She laughed. You mean like a vacation? Something like that. You've spent so many years carrying everyone else's dreams. When do you chase your own? The question landed harder than she expected. She looked out at the fountain, its water glimmering in the sunlight. I don't know if I remember how, she said quietly. He stopped walking. Then maybe it's time you learned again. When she met his gaze, something in her chest shifted, a pull, gentle but certain. It scared her. And yet, she didn't want it to stop. That evening, Sophia called from the city, voice bubbling with excitement. Mom! They said I have a natural look. They want me for another shoot next week. Elena laughed, tears in her eyes. Oh, sweetheart, that's amazing. I'm nervous, Sophia admitted. But happy. Like, maybe I can do this. You can, Elena said, steady and sure. You were born to. When she hung up, her smile lingered, but so did a pang of longing. She walked outside, where the sky was melting into rose and gold. Michael had texted her again. I enjoyed today. So did I, she replied. I hope you know you deserve everything good that's coming to you. Elena read the words again and again, her fingers trembling just slightly. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe it was too late, too complicated, too risky. But as the evening breeze brushed her face, she couldn't help but whisper into the fading light. Maybe, it's not too late after all. Chapter 16, First Light. The studio lights were brighter than Sophia expected, white sun suspended from the ceiling, chasing every shadow away. A makeup artist brushed powder across her cheeks, murmuring, "Tilt your chin just a little." She obeyed, trying not to show how fast her heart was racing. It was her first real shoot for Meridian Talent Agency, a simple campaign for a new clothing brand, but to her it felt like the start of something huge. She caught her reflection in the mirror, soft curls, steady eyes, and a spark that had not been there before. Back at home, Elena's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages from the agency, scheduling updates, and one from Michael. How's our rising star doing? Elena smiled. Nervous, but shining. That runs in the family, he replied. She tucked the phone away, her chest warm. At the studio, the photographer clapped his hands. All right, Sophia, imagine you're standing in sunlight after a long storm. Think calm, strong, grateful. She thought of her mother, of nights when the power had gone out, when they'd eaten canned soup by candlelight and Elena had whispered, "We'll be okay." Sophia lifted her chin. The camera clicked. Something in her expression changed, no longer a girl pretending to be confident, but a young woman who believed she could be. Perfect, the photographer said. That's the shot. During the break, Clara, her agent, handed her a bottle of water. You did great, she said. You've got a natural poise the camera loves. Keep that. Sophia grinned. Thank you. I just kept thinking about my mom. Clara's smile softened. Keep doing that. It shows. By the time they wrapped, evening light filtered through the tall windows. Sophia slipped on her hoodie, exhausted but glowing. Outside, her brother waited with Michael. Liam waved the moment he saw her. There's the superstar. Sophia laughed, running to them. You came. Wouldn't miss it, Michael said. We're officially your first fan club. Elena appeared a minute later, breathless from the cab. She pulled Sophia into a hug that smelled of lavender and relief. You were incredible, Elena whispered. You didn't even see the photos, Sophia teased. I don't need to, Elena said. I know. They all went for dinner afterward, nothing fancy, just pizza at a little place near the river. Sophia talked non-stop, describing every detail of the shoot. Liam teased her about being famous now, and she rolled her eyes, but her smile didn't fade. Michael listened quietly, pride in his eyes. When Elena caught his gaze, he said softly, she's finding her light. Elena nodded. They both are. He looked at her for a long moment. And so are you. That night, when they returned home, Sophia placed her first modeling badge on her nightstand, right next to Liam's worn basketball. Different dreams. Same beginning. Elena lingered in the doorway, watching both her children sleep, the proof that every struggle, every long night, had been worth it. Downstairs, she found a small note Michael had left by the door when he walked her to the porch earlier. They're going to change the world, Elena. And you're the reason they'll never forget where they came from. She held the note against her chest, her heart full of quiet light. Chapter 17, The Court of Dreams. The sound of sneakers squeaking against polished wood echoed through the gym. The smell of sweat, liniment, and effort hung thick in the air. Liam loved it. It was a language he'd been fluent in since childhood, the rhythm of dribbling, the heartbeat of competition. Tonight was different, though. There were more eyes on him than ever. The regional college scouts had shown up. Word of his recent performance had spread, and whispers were circling that a scholarship offer, maybe several, could be on the table. Liam Rivera, Coach Daniels barked, clapping him on the shoulder. This is your night. Play smart. Play humble. But don't hold back. Yes, coach. And remember, the older man's voice softened, you're not just playing for them. You're playing for you. Liam nodded, jaw tight. In the stands, Elena, Sophia, and Michael sat side by side. Sophia had a camera around her neck. She hadn't stopped smiling since they arrived. He looks calm, she said. Elena folded her hands together. He always looks calm when he's nervous. Michael leaned forward slightly. Let's see what he's made of. The game began. Liam's first few plays were rough, missed shot, bad pass. The scouts scribbled notes. His pulse thundered. Then he remembered his mother's voice, breathe, son. Every fall is just part of the dance. He took a breath. The noise faded. He saw the court, not chaos, but choreography. Next play, he cut through defenders, spinning past one, leaping into the air, the ball rolling off his fingertips in a perfect arc. Swish. The crowd roared. From that moment on, Liam was electric, fast, fluid, unstoppable. Each basket seemed to burn brighter than the last. By the final quarter, the scoreboard glowed, 74-68, their team ahead. The scouts were whispering now, nodding, writing faster. Sophia was on her feet, cheering, camera clicking non-stop. Elena could hardly breathe. When the buzzer finally sounded, Liam's team erupted in victory. He dropped to his knees, grinning, chest heaving. Coach Daniels caught his arm. You did it, kid. Liam grinned back. We did it. After the game, one of the scouts approached him, tall, sharp-suited, with a clipboard tucked under his arm. Liam Rivera? Yes, sir. The man smiled. I'm Mark Stanton, from UCLA. We'd like to talk about your future. Liam froze. UCLA, he repeated, disbelief cracking through his voice. That's right, Stanton said. You've got potential, son. Real potential. Elena reached them just in time to see her son's stunned expression. What's going on? She asked softly. Liam turned, eyes shining. Mom, they want me. UCLA wants me. For a second, Elena could only stare. Then she threw her arms around him, laughing through tears. Oh, Liam, yes, yes. Michael watched from a distance, a quiet smile on his face. Sophia leaned close to him. You knew this would happen. I hoped, he said. He's got something rare. Fire and grace. Later that night, at home, Liam sat outside on the porch steps, the offer letter still clutched in his hands. Elena came out with 2 mugs of hot chocolate and sat beside him. Can you believe it? He asked. I can, she said simply. I always could. He smiled, leaning his head on her shoulder like he used to when he was little. Everything's changing, Mom. Yes, she said, wrapping an arm around him. And everything good comes after the hard parts. They sat in silence, the stars stretching endlessly above them. From the window inside, Michael watched quietly, not wanting to intrude, just grateful. He had promised himself years ago that he would repay her kindness. But seeing them now, the family that love built, he realized something. Maybe he hadn't been the one doing the saving after all. Chapter 18, The Things We Don't Say. The night after Liam's big game, Elena couldn't sleep. The house was too still, her heart too full. She got up, made tea, and walked out onto the porch. The moonlight brushed against the villa's stone walls like a memory. She found Michael there, sitting on the steps, sleeves rolled up, looking out toward the olive grove. You couldn't sleep either? She asked. He smiled. Not with a night like this. She handed him a cup. Chamomile? He accepted it with a quiet thank you, their fingers brushing. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't empty, it was thick with everything they hadn't said. I keep thinking about the first time we met, he said after a while. Elena laughed softly. You mean when you almost froze to death in my kitchen? Exactly, he said, grinning. You didn't even know my name, but you took care of me. She looked down at her tea. You were a stranger. You needed help. That's what people do. Not everyone would have done it, he said quietly. You didn't just save me, Elena. You reminded me who I wanted to be. Her breath caught. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't met you, he continued. Everything, this foundation, my company, it all feels like it started that night. She met his gaze, her heart unsteady. You don't owe me anything, Michael. I know, he said softly. That's why it means everything. They sat in silence again, the night air cool and alive around them. Finally, Elena spoke. It's strange, isn't it? Watching them grow up. Liam with his scholarship. Sophia with her modeling. I feel proud, but also afraid. Afraid of what? That I'll wake up one morning and they won't need me anymore. Michael shook his head. They'll always need you. Just differently. She smiled, but her eyes shimmered. You sound like someone who's been through that. He nodded. My daughter stopped needing me a long time ago. Or maybe I stopped knowing how to be there for her. Elena looked at him, surprised. You never mentioned her. He smiled faintly. Her name's Grace. She's 22. Brilliant. Stubborn. Reminds me of Sophia, actually. Do you see her? Not often enough, he admitted. After her mother died, we drifted. Elena touched his hand gently. Maybe it's not too late. He turned his palm upward, fingers brushing hers. You really believe that, don't you? I have to, she said. It's what keeps me standing. They stayed like that for a long while, not holding hands exactly, but not letting go either. When Michael finally stood to leave, he hesitated by the gate. Elena, he said quietly, if I asked you to dinner, not for business, not for the kids, just us, would you say yes? Her heart skipped. I'd say yes, she whispered. He smiled, that quiet, knowing smile of his, and nodded once. Then it's a date. As he walked down the path, Elena leaned against the porch post, watching his shadow fade into the moonlight. For the first time in years, she felt something stirring deep inside her, something she thought she'd buried with her old life. Hope. Chapter 19, The Dinner That Changed Everything. The invitation came 2 days later. Simple. Elegant. Michael, Friday evening. 7:30, I'll pick you up. Elena reread the message several times, her pulse quickening every time her eyes landed on the words. It wasn't just dinner, not this time. It felt like something more. When Friday came, she found herself staring at her reflection for far too long. She'd chosen a soft blue dress, modest, graceful, the kind that caught light but not attention. Sophia had insisted on doing her hair. Mom, she said, pinning a loose strand. You look, wow. Elena blushed. It's just dinner. Sophia smirked. Sure it is. Liam, passing by with his gym bag, grinned. He's a good guy, Mom. Don't overthink it. I'm not, she said quickly. Both kids raised their eyebrows in perfect synchronization. She sighed. Okay, maybe a little. At exactly 7:30, headlights swept across the driveway. Michael stepped out of his car, dressed in a charcoal suit that somehow made him look both powerful and human. When he saw her, he froze, for just a heartbeat, before smiling. You look incredible, he said quietly. Elena laughed softly, trying to mask her nerves. You clean up pretty well yourself. They drove into the city as dusk melted into gold. The restaurant was tucked on a hill overlooking the river, warm light spilling from its windows, soft jazz playing in the distance. Inside, the air smelled of wine and rosemary. Mr. Grant, the hostess greeted warmly. Your table is ready. Elena blinked. You come here often? He smiled. Only when the company's special. Dinner began easily enough, stories, laughter, shared memories. They talked about the kids, the foundation, old mistakes, dreams that still scared them. I used to think I'd die working, Elena confessed. Now I don't even know what rest feels like. Maybe you'll remember, Michael said. Maybe this is where it starts. His voice was low, steady, the kind that seemed to settle into her skin. When dessert arrived, a single chocolate soufflé they decided to share, the tone shifted. Michael leaned back, studying her quietly. Can I tell you something honest? Always. I haven't felt this, alive in a long time. She looked down, her spoon trembling slightly. Michael. I know, he said quickly. You've been through a lot. I don't want to rush anything. But I need you to know, you matter to me. Not out of gratitude, not because of what you did years ago, but because of who you are now. Elena met his gaze, and in it, she saw no pity, no repayment. Just truth. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Then don't say anything. For a moment, the world seemed to still, the hum of the restaurant fading, the candlelight flickering between them. It wasn't a declaration, not yet. It was a promise. Quiet. Unspoken. Real. When he dropped her home later that night, he didn't walk her to the door, just turned to her and said softly. Good night, Elena. Good night, Michael. Their eyes lingered a second too long. Then he smiled and drove off into the dark. Elena stood there, heart pounding, 1,000 thoughts swirling in her chest, none louder than one simple truth. Something had changed. And this time, she wasn't afraid to let it. Chapter 20, New Worlds. The campus looked like something out of a movie. Palm trees lining white stone walkways, sun glittering off the glass of athletic centers, and the faint thump of basketballs echoing from the gym. Liam stepped out of the car and just stared. This is it, he whispered. Elena squeezed his arm, smiling through misty eyes. Your new beginning. Sophia was filming on her phone, narrating dramatically, and here we have the future NBA superstar, arriving at his new kingdom. Stop, Liam groaned, but he was laughing. Even Michael, standing a few feet behind them, couldn't hide his pride. You've earned this, son. Liam turned, meeting his eyes. Michael had become something of a second father, a mentor who expected greatness but never demanded perfection. Thanks, Liam said. For everything. Michael nodded. Go make the world remember your name. The first week was a blur, practice, orientation, classes. College ball wasn't like high school. The speed, the strength, the precision, every play felt like a test. The coaches shouted, the drills ran for hours, and at night, he collapsed into bed too tired to think. But he loved it. Every bit of it. Still, there were moments when doubt crept in, when older players towered over him, or his shots rimmed out again and again. One night after practice, he sat alone in the gym, lights dimmed, the echo of his missed shots hanging in the air. He pulled out his phone and texted his mom. Rough day. Missed half my shots. Coach isn't happy. Her reply came fast. That means tomorrow you'll make the other half. He smiled, shaking his head. Typical mom. Always turning the storm into sunlight. As weeks passed, he adjusted, faster, sharper, tougher. His name started to circulate among coaches. Teammates began trusting him more. One afternoon after practice, his head coach called him over. Rivera, he said. You've got potential. But talent's just the start. You want to lead this team one day. Yes, sir. Then stop doubting yourself. You belong here. That night, Liam practiced alone until midnight, jump shots, layups, free throws. The sound of the ball on the hardwood was his heartbeat. Meanwhile, back home, Elena kept a photo from his first game pinned to the kitchen wall, Liam mid-jump, determination in every muscle. Sophia's career was beginning to rise too, more photo shoots, her face appearing on small billboards. And through it all, Michael was there, steady, supportive, quietly weaving himself deeper into their lives. On Sunday, Liam called home. "Hey, Mom," he said, voice warm through the phone. "Guess what?" "What, sweetheart?" "I made the starting lineup." Elena gasped. "Already?" "Liam, that's incredible." "I couldn't have done it without you," he said softly. "Any of you." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "You were always meant to fly, baby. We just built the runway." That night, Liam walked back from the gym, the city lights of Los Angeles spread before him like 1,000 dreams waiting to be caught. He looked up at the stars, the same ones he used to stare at from their old, tiny apartment, and whispered, "I'm just getting started."